So here's the unground side. You can see the very wide secondary bevel. Here's after a few minutes of grinding, and you can see the transition bevel approximately about right here, which is basically in between the angle of this, which is around 3 degrees, and the angle of this, which is around 8 degrees. So this transition bevel is somewhere around 5 or 6 degrees, and I'm going to slowly bring this down further into the edge where I really can't see it anymore. It looks to be fairly decent right here right now. I'm not going to bring it down a lot less than that. I haven't ground the tip very much at all. That's intentional. I like the tip fairly thick. I do a lot of prying heavy work, and for impacts and stuff like that I don't want to remove that much metal from the tip. But you can see after a very, very light touch, the 36 grit aluminum oxide belt is really tearing through the steel, and even after just a few minutes I got most of that very wide bevel you see here hogged off, and now it's only a little tiny edge bevel remaining. I'll bring that down a little bit more now. Here's the finished product. So you can see now that the final or secondary edge bevel is very fine, both sides. I'd like to take it down a little bit finer than this. You can see it a bit more clearly on this side. The problem is I'm using a 36 grit belt to speed up the process. And at this point the scratches from the 36 grit belt are sort of almost on the verge of hitting the edge. And that belt is really rough. If it hits the edge it'll start taking pieces out of it. Now I could refine it with an 80 grit belt and move it down a little bit, but the change in performance I'm seeing from this point on is incremental, not really worth it. But this should be a great benefit for resharpening, because now I've got this little tiny bevel to resharpen instead of the great big wide one before. And of course there will be an increase in cutting ability as well with the reduced metal on the edge. And I don't have any concerns about durability because I'm maintaining the same edge angle and the thickness is fine. As long as it's above 25 thou I should be able to chop fine, and at about 35 thou it sort of gets invincible when you have a steel roughly of about this quality.